Codename, Kayla's Fire. Prologue. His special lady exited base command, and he watched. His pulse raced with a glimpse of her. Petty Officer Mace Callahan tossed Kayla's bag into the backseat of his car. They couldn't see him, sitting in his own vehicle, admiring her through the window of the vehicle parked next to him. Alpha Squad protected and fawned over her. Kayla was a challenge, yet everything he longed for. He wouldn't rush. When he slowly angled the knife between skin and flesh, she would agree her death was just. When he was done, her body would be a work of art. His heart skipped, remembering how close he'd come to having her. Because of her defiance, Kayla had slipped through his fingers. If she had listened to Austin and remained in his house, she would have been his to carve and teach at his leisure. The coolness of the blade against his chest comforted him. Hidden in the special pocket he'd sewn into the interior of his jacket, it remained his most important tool. Like a painter's brush, it stroked and sliced with beautiful perfection. Kayla jumped into the passenger seat and drew her seatbelt. So many choices, but his heart had set itself on one extraordinary example of femininity, the Lilith of all women. Kayla wound men around her finger, toyed with them, and no doubt tempted them to betray their wives or girlfriends. A shining example of treachery. Her aloof attitude made his blood boil. She needed his discipline. She needed him. Captain Austin and Lieutenant Manchester were both spinning their wheels trying to catch him. The Navy had taught him well. He could avoid anyone who wanted to stop his important work. They didn't understand his mission, the good he was doing on behalf of all of them. Hunting these women was a noble act. When they were in his possession, he showed them their failings, cut the darkness out of them, and each of them had bowed before him. He had told each of his wives he loved them, but only fear reflected in their eyes. He would take his time with Kayla, far longer than he took with the others. She was special, and he knew she wouldn't break easily, but he would persevere until she did. As life left her, he would gaze into her defiant eyes and watch the blood drain from her body. He'd collect every precious drop. Kayla was wickedly beautiful, and she would be his prize for all the hard work he had done to rid the base of the women who walked among them with only betrayal in mind. Soon his fellow combatants would thank him for disciplining these women. Instead of driving Kayla back to the apartment, Mace turned his car and headed for the entrance to the base. Mace, with his sharp sniper eyes, noticed him. Kayla leaned forward and they both waved. He smiled and waved back. "Patience," he murmured to himself. His mind whirled with frenzied possibilities, so fair, so immoral. He twisted the key and pulled out a few cars behind them to follow. Maybe today would be his lucky day, and Kayla, the lost lamb, would break from her pack. He would be waiting. Of all the women who'd betrayed him, Kayla needed him the most. Her penance would redeem her, and she would never beguile a man again. He would skin the beauty from her and leave the world with an image of what she truly was: deceitful, evil,